For the next 31 days on the FCPA Compliance Report, we're going to be bringing you a daily tip, strategy, or idea that you can use to improve your program. Here's your host, Tom Fox, the Compliance Evangelist.
Innovation through KPIs. Measuring the effectiveness of your compliance programs will be one of the key criteria going forward into the 2020s and beyond. One of the mechanisms to do so is key performance indicators, or KPIs. KPIs are a critical component in showing a compliance program success or failure. If you've been working towards the stated goal and for reporting success. While the specific requirements for this kind of reporting have been hotly debated in the compliance profession for some time, KPIs are a regulatory requirement. Your KPIs are going to be specific and unique to your company and what business it conducts with what goals you're trying to achieve as a whole and the compliance program. In other words, there is no one set list of KPIs. How can you think about setting your KPIs? There are several steps you need to take to pursue this approach. The first thing to do is agree on the manner in which you to use KPIs and then the blueprint going forward. You should apply KPIs to as wide a swath of your compliance program as possible, literally to all employees across the globe, including your code of conduct, policies, and procedures of your compliance program. Standardization of measurements is key through standard mechanisms and forms. This is important not only to achieve consistency, but also due to the upfront cost of development. If you can develop and utilize the same measuring mechanisms and report forms that will decrease costs and increase efficiencies over monitoring cycles, then you're ahead of the game. The next area is in reporting. Obviously, by assigning values to your KPI, you can more easily track the results to move to increase efficiencies. This will allow you to better track progress over time as well. Ongoing monitoring provides not only the opportunity, but sets the basis for ongoing enhancement to your compliance regime. You can utilize the results to effect improvement on a broad-based focus or into the weeds at a more granular level. And any new or emerging risk or noteworthy changes to the likelihood or severity of your organizational profile, either due to business changes or environments such as COVID-19, can also be tracked. Such results can be used in a wide variety of other compliance areas as well. One of the hardest areas in compliance is determining the effectiveness of training. Putting KPIs around how many employees have successfully completed training and policy requirements, including the results of any post-training test, policy attestation rates, can assist in this endeavor. In the area of employee feedback, KPIs received through employee focus groups, cultural surveys, and knowledge assessments, and how you are using this feedback to drive improvements. Finally, you can put KPIs around audit findings, specifically around the results of internal and external audits and what those findings mean for the organization and the compliance program. How do you go about measuring KPIs? One of the greatest things about the compliance profession is we are only limited by your imagination or our imagination. This means in an area such as compliance and KPI, there are no guidelines for the compliance professional, and you can use today's data-saturated world and heightened sensitivity around compliance across industries to develop the right KPIs for your organization. Start with the proposition that you need a sound method to measure your company's compliance program effectiveness. From there, consider a risk-based program to specifically account for your organization's unique risk profile. Working from a risk-based assessment can establish KPIs needed to identify program improvements. One way to do so is provide a quantitative process maturity rating scale of 1 to 4 for each KPI. Each identified and evaluated compliance program is then given a rating. An aggregate rating can be calculated for each area. This rating allows you to identify opportunities, analyze root cause of deficiency, and assign ownership for improvement action and track next steps. The rating scale would also go something like the following. Ranking of 1. The issue is not fully mitigated by controls, or there are inconsistencies in the process that make them susceptible to breakdown. Under 2, your compliance program processes and controls are in place to mitigate risk and are consistently operating. 3 would be best practice, where your compliance program has achieved best practice criteria, and 4 is where your compliance program has matured beyond best practices. KPIs provide another mechanism for you to monitor and update your compliance program on an almost continuous basis. KPIs can be extremely low in cost and therefore something you can put in place without a lot of approval from higher ups in your organization that you might have to go through for budget approval. Finally, innovation can come in many ways. Obviously, ComTech can be a huge jump forward, but sometimes innovation can occur at a much less costly and more granular level. KPIs can be just such a mechanism for you. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, I believe that KPIs will be critical to assess a compliance program into the 2020s and beyond. And you need to then move to number 2, which is to set your KPIs. This is along the lines of assess your risk and manage your risk, but the same is true for KPIs. And finally, number 3, decide on how you will use KPIs and the blueprint for them going forward. With this information, you will be able to engage in continuous monitoring and then take it to the next level of continuous improvement so you meet the requirements of the 2020 update to the evaluation of corporate compliance programs going forward. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. I'd like to thank you again for joining me for this episode of 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program, and I hope you will join me for our next episode tomorrow. This podcast series on 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.